So, you're here because you hope to improve the quality of your videos. Well, here are the 5 secrets that allowed me to take my video footage from this to this. And by the way, both of those shots were from the same night, same time of day, and same location. So I'm not going to recommend that you go out and buy expensive lighting equipment, but what I think you should do instead is learn how light works so you can make the best use of the light that's already in the scene. This means that no matter the time or location, you'll be able to get the best looking video out of the light that's already there. And when using light, it's all about angles. One of the fastest ways to improve a shot is to change the angle of the light. When you use a different angle of lighting, you can give the subject more shape, which lends to the depth of the shot. Instead of lighting the subject from the front, try lighting them from the side or the back. In the example on screen, you can see how the planter is being shaped by the light when it's hit from the side versus the front. You can also notice that the background is not getting hit by as much light when the light is from the side versus the front. This means that you get more separation between the subject and the background as well. And that way, your focus is on the subject rather than the background and the subject. This also applies to human faces. In this example, you can see how the light from the side shapes my face better than from the front. This also works from the back. In the example shots, you can see in both shots the light's coming off from the left and hitting me from the side that way, just in front of me off to my left side. And so this lighting actually looks really good, but it's lost in the bad example. One of the biggest changes in the example I showed at the beginning is the difference between auto settings and manual settings, and understanding what does what. As you can see on screen right now, the main difference is actually the difference between the auto settings and manual settings. And that is what gives us the different exposure and allows the pure whites to come into the one side and to retain the color in the other. I'll leave a few links in the description below of videos that I think explain it really well and really quickly, and so I would consider checking those out, and then also just going out and practicing. Going out and practicing is how you're going to improve and develop your understanding of these manual settings. Here are a few more examples where you can see the difference between the auto settings and the manual settings. When it comes to gear, you don't need to overcomplicate things. A lot of the times I'll shoot on just the one prime lens. That's actually what I did for the entire example sequence for this video, and I think it worked out great. I was able to get a good variety of shots even just off the one simple lens setup. Now if you're still using the cheaper kit lens that came with your camera, I would recommend picking up a cheap prime lens instead to just add to your kit, and it'll give you a lot more options when it comes to lenses and what you can do to film anything, really. On the topic of gear, there are filters other than ND filters that can be really nice to use when filming. The one that I use for all of my video is a diffusion filter. Personally, I use the Cinebloom 20%, and essentially what that does is it blooms the highlights and rolls off into the brighter parts of your image a little bit better. So something else really important for gear is also ND filters, because the exposure right now is really bright if I use the settings that I want. And so this filter essentially just darkens the image. So it goes from overly bright with the settings I want to the proper exposure with the settings I want. This just allows you to use whatever different settings you would like. These are critical when it comes to bright sunny days and shooting in bright sunlight. What you just watched is an example of what I call sequencing, but essentially it's just a sequence of shots instead of just one shot. In a matter of a couple seconds, I was able to show many different things happening really quickly, and it was very digestible for you as a viewer, versus if it was just one shot, it'd be very long, very boring. So throwing in different camera angles and getting different shots of the same action allows you to cut in between them in post, and it gives you more options later. And this also just keeps the viewer entertained a little bit better. Cutting on the action is a good idea when doing this. So when I finished screwing on the bottle and I started to move my hand out of frame, we cut to the shot that you're at right now as I finished that same motion fluidly across 2 separate shots. And you can see this in the example from the beginning really well, but this is in the form of just me walking, and there was one point where I wiped some sweat off my brow with my shirt, and then I also took my phone out of my pocket, and these are all actions on which we can cut, and so this is that's a good point where you can cut to a different camera angle very naturally. Different camera angles allow for a much more entertaining video, and you can also tell a series of events much faster in a more digestible format. Color grading is where you get to pull out the best in your footage in post, so this is something you do in your editor after the fact. DaVinci Resolve is the one that I would recommend because it has the best tools for this job. I'm not going to teach any of this in this video, but it's something I think you should go and spend time on and research and practice, because color grading is a huge part of the video making process, and this is going to take your footage so much further than you otherwise can. There are 2 videos linked in the description below that will allow you to learn how your settings behave on your camera when shooting video, because they behave differently from photography, as well as how to color grade your videos and mastering the basics of color grading. Those both will allow you to take your video footage so much further, so I would recommend looking at those. Also, if you're a photographer, make sure to check out this video here where I show you the 3 amateur mistakes that I think you shouldn't make.